All right, it's time for another In the Car pitch. And this time I'm not alone. I got my boy Solo with me.
Yeah.
And he's actually rocking a Frankenstein monster t-shirt, courtesy of Universal Studios and Target. So this year we introduced Solomon. He's 9. And we were thinking about this last year. We didn't get around to it. But this year we decided to let Solomon watch VanHelsing. And right now at this recording, we're about halfway through. Solomon, how you digging the movie?
I really like it. Honestly, it's fun. It's like a fun, creepy movie.
Yeah, I think, you know what? Like, I was telling Brian,
That's why I didn't like Five Nights at Freddy's. Because I feel like, it was kind of boring at parts, honestly.
Yeah. And so one thing I was talking with Brian about, our good old friend Brian from Gravely Amusing, is the fact that me and him have talked about the Universal monsters a lot. We love them. It's part of our core love for movies and characters. And we've talked a lot about what Van Helsing did wrong. Okay? But I'm watching it with Solomon, and he's enjoying the action adventure. And it is a way into those kind of that world for him. And I appreciate that. So I really appreciate watching it with him. Now, today's pitch, is not so much about building the dark universe like they tried to do with Dracula Untold and with The Mummy. We talked about The Mummy with Tom Cruise, how that was horrible because that was so much about Tom Cruise and didn't really build the world, but yet they sprinkled things in there. Today we're talking about how to build the monster universe from Van Helsing. And that being your in. And not only the character, but the family and the family name. Now, true to form, when we meet Abraham Van Helsing in the novel of Dracula, okay, he is an old doctor person, okay? So my pitch is, with all of that, what we could do is start it off is you start, was position the character correctly. Abraham Van Helsing, old man. And what you could do is the first film, we could start it kind of the Dracula story told through Abraham Van Helsing, right? So we see he's an older man in a university. We start off, we see that he has a son. And his son is more of your adventurer, Rick O'Connell, Alan Quartermain type person, right? And he studies with his father, but there's some animosity there, okay? And we'll name his son, I don't know, Malachi. Let's give these cool biblical names, right? So Malachi Van Helsing. It's also no reference to an old Disney Channel original movie, if you know that. And we see he has his wife and he has a daughter. Okay, and his daughter is much like her brother. She yearns for adventure and all this. And her name is, what's a good old-timey kind of sounding name? Elsa. What do you think? Elsa?
How about I'm thinking one is Dahlia.
Ooh. Okay, Dahlia. I like it. Dahlia Van Helsing. Sounds sweet. And so what happens is we're with the family. We see him and that they're studying, and he gets called away. And then like I said, the events of Dracula through him, and it ends where he supposedly defeats Dracula. Okay? But he comes back, he writes down what happened, and he starts teaching his children. So then what you have is you take the son, and the son goes off and maybe encounters his own so he kind of spins off, and the son goes off, and maybe he fights the Wolfman, okay? And then the daughter would go off and maybe join an Egyptian expedition, and you have this thing where this family start interacting and fighting monsters. But then after that, what you do is you start telling these tales and how they connect, but then you can go through time and then you jump ahead, generations to where the Van Helsing name is synonymous with like monster sphere, but people always think they're pseudo crazy scientists or something like that. And you start building that legacy. So then what you do is I think you could have a really great story just called The Brides of Dracula. And you have Van Helsing's daughter going up against Dracula's brides. And the idea that maybe their master is still alive out there and it's in the background. But they take on vampires being the brides, where the brides are trying to make more vampires in a story. And then, of course, so after the film of The Brides, like, you can jump in time. And what you can do is have one set now in the early 1900s, 1940s, kind of honoring that original Universal timeline with, like, Van Helsing's grandson who encounters Dr. Frankenstein and the other doctor, and how that plays in. And then what you do is you build, and then what you do is you have another one take place, say like in the 1950s, between 50s and 70s, where we hunt the last of Dracula's brides. And we can then, like I said, we can do The Creature also in that time period as a movie. But then you have this idea that this, for lack of a better word, Phantom Menace, which is Dracula, exists. And then what you do is you bring it into the modern age with Van Helsing's current family encountering Dracula. And Dracula, in his castle, in his house, brings everyone there. He brings in the Wolfman. So we see his story. And we can do a good Wolfman if we want to, because I'm a big fan of the Abbott Costello, where the Wolfman was trying to hunt Dracula. And you could have a whole story where, like with the Wolfman, that maybe the Wolfman and Van Helsing's son actually became allies and worked together. So the idea is you're plotting this universe, building this family, and you can jump around in time to tell these different stories. I think Jekyll and Hyde is fun. The Invisible Man, you could kind of put in there however you want to position the adventures, but it all culminates where Dracula returns. And it's like the castle of Dracula. And it's Dracula bringing in all the last of the Van Helsing family. He has 3 new brides, and I think the brides are very important with telling an interesting, diverse story, with having maybe brides of different ethnic backgrounds, showing that Dracula's been around the globe. And we have this sense of the other world, and we can do, with the Van Helsing family, I think it'd be great to do a story with like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and do it properly, not that crap they put in the Van Helsing movie, with fairies, where they, the Fae, where they travel to Ireland, and you have Van Helsing fighting not just the universal base monsters, but like folklore creatures and other monsters in films, not TV. We're not going like the Winchester route here, but the idea is that you can make this connected universe, and you could do a series if you want to, but the way to do the dark universe is the family, the Van Helsing family. How they start an organization that they keep in family as basically hunters, and they hunt the legends, and you play with the time that the legends existed, the 1800s and stuff like that, when the books came out. But then, like with Frankenstein, I think it'd be fun to play with, like when the Universal movie came out in the early 20s, because that movie plays with time if you watch it, that whole era. Because then the Wolfman pretty much takes place in the 40s. That's why I think it'd be fun to do a Wolfman film, maybe in the 40s, playing back to the Universal time. But plainly, as I said, we could sit here. This is my overarching pitch of how to do it. We could structure each and every individual film, if you wanted to, and build the universe out through the Van Helsing family. I think the original Van Helsing movie failed by trying to do a horrible wolfman, which was not a wolfman, he was a werewolf. Okay, and there's a difference. And I've talked about that before in my Wolfman pitch. I've talked about that on Gravely Amusing, and I would bring that up and do, a series, because I think it'd be fun to, go that folklore, and there's a difference between the Wolfman and a regular werewolf, okay? And then, they did a different take on Dracula. It didn't feel like classic Dracula. And they tried to do the monster, but then you did this Gabriel Van Helsing, where they basically tried to say that he's like an angel who lost his memory. That was stupid. And it doesn't play into, like I said, Abraham, but by starting with Abraham as this old man who then passes this lineage on to his children, and the children continue on, and the family becomes a family of monster hunters, of people who fight through the ages, and we each film touches on different time periods with different members of the family, and we can have some family members repeat, some disappear, and like I said, culminating in modern time. So that's kind of my pitch to bring in a dark universe in a different way than what they've tried before.